Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Hey Hire Us. It's been a while since you guys heard us, since we are on a bi-weekly schedule. I'm your host, Abigail.
Hi, I'm Ariel.
And today we will be interviewing our dear friend Greta. Woo!
Yes. Hello.
Hello, Greta.
Thank you for having
It's been
me.
so long since we last spoke.
I know. I feel like I was talking to you for like 40 minutes beforehand, but that was just my imagination.
Yes, we had a little bit of a mishap, but I am so happy. We're so happy to present Greta and her beautiful self and her wonderful work to you guys, because Greta has so many talents to share. And yeah, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners, Gret?
Yes. Hello, my name is Greta Hand, and I'm a story artist and 2D character animator. I went to SCAD, graduated in 2020, been working for about 6 or 7 months now.
Nice.
It's been pretty good.
Yay!
I'm like super laughing right now, sorry.
You're good. I mean, if you see the video clip, you can definitely tell Greta went to SCAD because she's sporting the wonderful orange cap that we all got in our little graduation box right now. But yeah, if this is your first time listening to this podcast because you're here for Gret and you don't know how we work, we have little corners to add a little spice, a little flavor to the way that our guests pitch themselves, a little spickiness. And our first corner is the pitching corner, where our guest comes and pitches themselves, but with a twist. They can either pitch themselves through infomercial style, rap style, spoken word. And how have you prepared to pitch to us today, Greta?
I prepared an infomercial because I am way too white to do a rap without it be utterly humiliating on my behalf.
We love that.
So, without further ado, narrated by Nigel Barker. No. Okay. Are you tired of not being interrogated by your employees? Need someone to give you the third degree about the structure of your vision and character psychology? Well, look no further. Whether it be scene composition, character performance, or camera psychology, I won't leave you alone until I know exactly what you're looking for. There ain't no I in team, and there ain't no I in me. Let teamwork make the dream work, and hire me, Greta Hand, as your new story artist and or character animator today.
Yeah. And if you if you only listen to our podcast and don't follow us on social media, please follow us just to see the video clip that we will post for this episode, because Greta has also included wonderful, amazing visuals and some amazing presentation skills. So definitely check out the video clip when it comes out. It's so good.
It's truly the perfect.
I took
It definitely blew us away.
I took inspo from the original animatic for Rogue One, and I just put some images together and made a beautiful presentation.
There was like explosions, there was confetti, there was so many different things. You need to go watch it.
Some say Michael Bay Ghost directed my presentation, but I say no.
There's some rumors,
Actually,
but
Michael Bay actually learned from Gret.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, don't let my youthful visage fool you. I'm actually 82 years of age. No, I'm not.
And with
I'm a ripe little 23-year-old child.
And with all that experience, how can you say no to not calling this number right now and contacting Greta to get her on your team? So please go contact her. Come on now, wake up, people. We gotta get all this wonderful knowledge, this 82 years of knowledge into the industry.
Yeah, lightly seasoned by Australian upbringing.
So me, we are all SCAD kids. This is not new. This is not new
We're all
news.
scaddies here.
We're all scatties here. We're all bees. We're the bees knees. So we actually met Greta through SCAD, obviously, and we we definitely got a lot closer with Greta through the time that was senior year, especially with the COVID, and all that jazz that happened. Do you want to talk about your work at SCAD, Greta? Like, you worked on a bunch of different senior films. You were like a little busy working bee, jumping between your main film, which was Event Horizon, and also like Sapiens and All in Your Head. You even did some game stuff. Do you want to talk about all that fun stuff?
Greta was the actual
Yes.
working bee in the hive that was Monty. No?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so glad to announce that I went from amateur try hard to professional try hard. And yeah, so during school, senior year was really nice because I was a bit of a hermit who was taking too many classes, constantly doing a lot of projects. So I got to socialize, but not to the extent that I got to during senior year. And I feel like it was also really nice because senior year, like, people are a lot more assured in not just like their work, but in college in general, you know more of who you are by senior year.
Mhm.
So when you're like talking to people, it's just really interesting to be able to just meet all these people who kind of know what they want and are really gung-ho to like just let's get to it.
Yeah.
In senior year, I started on a film that ended up dissolving at the beginning of the winter quarter.
Mhm.
But luckily, I still got to continue working with the same people who are on that team as we were moved on to Event Horizon, which was the film I spent the majority of my senior year of those last 6 months working on. And that's also, Abby was in the same class working on Snapshot.
Yes.
So I really got to see Abby's work and also get to know the Snapshot team a lot better. But I really liked Event Horizon. When I first got on it, Ian, who was the director, he was just like, listen, we don't like this where it's at right now, so we're going to redo it. And I was like, oh, that's ambitious. I'm on board. And so we just kind of sat down and I interrogated the heck out of him about exactly what he was thinking. Because if he didn't like the original one, I'm like, well, then what do you want for this? Like, can you tell me exactly what you want? And he had some idea, but then we really got down into like the beats that he wanted, like the imagery he wanted to hit, since it was a lot more experimental in the space portion of that film. It was really fun to work on. I think we spent like a weekend reboarding the entire film.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, and then once COVID and quarantine really hit, we had to rethink it again in order to meet the new restrictions we had, because some people couldn't have access to the programs. Some people just, because of circumstance, the film as it was not be able to be finished. So we reworked it, made it a bit more non-linear, and really happy with the final product. We had some mishaps, files going missing in the last week, redoing some cleanup.
Hey, but it worked out for you guys in the end. Didn't Event Horizon win something? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, we got the gold award, which
Nice.
I didn't even know that they were giving awards. I was about to turn off the stream, and then I left, and then my friend Maria was like, congratulations, because she worked on Mandrake, which got the best of show. But I was like, there's awards? And then she's like, I recorded it, and then she sent it.
Listen, at the time I was living with Kristen, who was on Event Horizon as well, and I remember we didn't even finish the showcase because we were like,
It's so
we're
long.
tired, we want to go to sleep, and our year animation showcase, it was like 3 hours long.
Yeah,
So
it
we were
was
like,
very
I
long.
think it's
Yeah,
time
it's
to
quite
close the window. But then suddenly, like, as we close, Kristen starts getting texts from friends being like, hey, Event Horizon won something, and we were like, there are awards? We didn't know what was happening. We were just like, oh. But yeah, in the end, it like really like, worked out for you guys, despite all the COVID drama.
Yeah, and I love that mindset that your crew had of just like, okay, like especially when integrating a whole nother crew into your crew, that takes so much of there's so many different dynamics that like the first crew would have with each other. And even though we're in the same class doesn't necessarily mean you like know how those dynamics will mesh when you're working directly together. So for Ian to be like, hey, I'm gonna take you guys all into my crew, and also like we're gonna redo this because we're not happy and we want to hear like what you have to say, what you will bring to the table, and like, this is not just my thing, it is our film, and we want to hear like everyone's opinion on it. That's a really good mindset to have.
Yeah, I really want to hand it to the OG Event Horizon crew, because us coming in, they were very welcoming. They're very much the mentality of like, let's make it work. We're going to make the wants of the film meet the needs of the team. People got a say of what they wanted to work on. It was very collaborative, and I enjoyed it very much. And I feel like a bit of everyone ended up in the final product, which is something you kind of want when working on a team. But yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also got to work on some other senior films, because try hard, we must remember our keywords. So I got to work briefly with Ariel on All in Your Head, because I knew Randy, who was leading that film, and they were like, we need some extra character animation. I was like, hell yeah, throw some stuff my way. I'll let you know what I can and can't do. And then I also, my friend Kyle, who was working on Sapiens, was like, we need some help on animation. I was like, hell yeah, throw some stuff my way. I love animating, and it's kind of all storyboarding animating is kind of all I do. And I just sit in my room, eat my goldfish, and just chug the way. But it was really fun, because they're all very different films.
Yeah.
In execution, in art style. So I think it was really fun, and it was a challenge for me, because before then, with a lot of I'd done some brief work, because I started doing game animation, 2D game animation, for a startup game called Monochrome RPG in like the spring of my junior year, I think. My timeline might be a bit off, but it was in 2019, beginning of 2019, I started doing work for them. So like you have to like working on other people's designs, because like in your introductory course to animation, you do get some character models to work off of, but I had Weber, who is very gung-ho. He's like, follow your dreams, do whatever. As long as you're animating and following the animation principles, go for it. So you could really work off like your own designs. And so I hadn't had that much experience like really forcing myself to adhere to those model sheets. Trying to get myself to a T. So that was like, and I tend to do this trial by fire thing, where I'll just throw myself headfirst into things, and I'm just like, well, I need to get the hours in, and then the result will come with it. So yeah, it's really cool being able, because like Sapiens had a bit more anime, and then in like the facial shape in the eyes, and then there's a gorilla, and then On Your Head had more of the very heavy on shape language within the character designs, like very round shapes versus like more triangular shapes. And then Event Horizon was like lineless, much more not experimental, but it looked kind of French. And the way, you know how like the goblins, like you see those films, it looks kind of French.
I love that.
You know what? What's your drawing style right now? Very French.
No.
Very French, actually. No, but it was like it was really interesting, especially like getting towards like those cleanup stages, because it was lineless in that respect. I think it was a really good experience. I really enjoyed senior year, even with the added difficulty of going remote. But yeah, I feel like I got to meet a lot of really cool people, see a lot of really cool art and films, and I got to work in teams, and I had a great time. It really taught me a lot
honestly,
about being.
You getting to like jump on like different projects, it's kind of like how I wish like my senior year experience would have gone, because I got like we weren't really allowed to like, you know, jump onto different films, but like, you know, again with Gret being like, professional try hard, we're gonna like keep going at it, but like
they said don't do that, and I said you can't tell me what to do.
I know, but how especially, it must have been nice to just have like such a variety of work, like you saying earlier, like each of those films, like just from memory, like they stylistically they're so different from each other, so it just must have been nice on your reel to like, you know, show that, hey, I can like adapt to like whatever style you're going for. That must have been so nice. And like honestly, I wish, you know, that was the experience for like me as well. Like as a designer, I kind of wanted to like be able to like, hey, I want to like, you know, help others, because you know it just sucks like hearing at the end of senior year that like some projects were like, hey, we actually like needed a lot of help with like viz dev and stuff like that, and I'm like, I was
Yeah,
I
our
would've
team didn't
helped.
have like a Viz Dev artist at all.
I feel like at school they're very much they're like, here are your parameters, and I'm like, thank you for the suggestion. So like they were like, take 2 studios and 1 lecture, never take 3 studios, and I was like, I'm gonna take 3 studios for the majority of my time here. Thank
Oh
you.
my goodness.
Because I came in
Wow.
with extra credits, so I had a lot of like my gen eds just like
Yeah.
knocked away from high school. So I just had spots, and I was like, I don't want it to be empty space because I'm going to like information wise, I'm going to bleed this school dry. I'm gonna get the most I can. So even when because they're like, well, you're not going to be credited on the film because you're technically not allowed. I'm like, I don't care if I get credited.
It'll be in my resume.
If like in the showcase, I don't care if my name doesn't show up, it doesn't show up. I have the work here for it. I have if some reason a studio is like, you're not on the credits of this thing, I'd be like, well, here's the director of it. They can tell you that I worked on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, the director would probably make a new version because the way that SCAD credits are is very strange. So, and I know like most
Yeah.
people who are directors do have another version where they put like everyone's
Yeah.
credits in for festivals, and that's what people are looking
That's like-
for, like the festivals.
Yeah. Well, I saw they did sneak my name in the credits on the other films, and I was like, thank you.
Hey.
Thank you. I enjoy that. Also, yeah,
Credit
that
your
didn't
artist
dissuade
friends.
me. Yeah, I feel like because especially in school, I was like, well, this is the time to push myself. I'm not going to push myself to the point where I set myself up for failure because especially in like animation,
Mhm.
like people are relying on you. So I don't want to let other people down in that respect. Like they're trusting me to do a job and I'm going to meet or exceed expectation. The goal is always to meet, but sometimes you end up exceeding, which is always a nice thing. But since it's like team based, I'm like, well, I know I can do a little bit extra. So I'll take on a little bit extra. Doing that extra, I'm like, okay, I feel like I could do a little bit extra again. So I just kind of build up gradually to try and find my boundaries and my limits. But in like the safety net of school. Cause like,
Mhm.
I
I
won't
love
get
that.
fired. The worst thing that happened, maybe my grades would slip a little bit. But that's not really an issue. If you see that's happening, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I need to reel back now and then focus on if grades are important to you, then focus on that. If getting all these different projects is more important, then focusing in on those.
Yeah.
Because again, I think school is very much a guideline. Like they're like, this is what best fits the average, who's not like really a real person, but it's here to help balance you and give you a foundation.
It's where you figure yourself out as an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And know what's good and what's not good for you. Because I know like
I love that mindset that you have though.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I did like a thing in high school that was like a 2-year long course with like it was really intense. It was supposed to be like a preparatory thing for college because I was originally going to go to like into chemistry. And I was like, no thanks. Last minute, and I just applied to art schools because I was like, I like English a lot and I like drawing, so storytelling, film, let's go. Yeah, but I think it's I don't know. I think school is for learning. So even if you fail, it's the consequences now are not nearly as dire as when like studios are depending on you. If you have a family, your family's depending on you.
because actual money is being like invested in that.
Yeah, and the only person you could really let down is yourself. But if you're learning from your mistakes and you're figuring things out, then you're not really failing yourself. Like you're not letting yourself down. You're just building a better foundation
Exactly.
to succeed later.
I love that mindset that you have because I feel like I don't know, like I feel like there's so much pressure that people put on themselves in art school of like having to be the very best and getting the very big like the best grades that like I think it'd be good for people to like listen to that mindset and be like, it's okay if I like not do as well or like do a little mishap here because what did I learn from that? What can I do better? And like grades are important, obviously, especially if you have scholarship, but in the end, grades aren't the biggest thing in the world. And like they don't matter out in the industry. So if you like your grade tanked a little bit for you to learn a lesson that will really benefit you as a person and with your work ethic, I think that's like even more beneficial to you. And it's so cool that that you were kind of liberated and like, okay, I will try out these different things to like so and like to learn more about how I feel as an artist, as a person, but you also were like very considerate of your peers, especially in senior year. You kind of like were you grew into yourself. You're very considerate of like I'm going to take this on because I want to help your crew out. I want to, like, your crew struggling. I want to be there for you, but I also understand what my limit is. Like, I understand, oh, I can't take up all that because I don't want to let you down. Like, I don't want to let your crew down. So that's a really cool mindset that I feel like more people should have of, like, not taking on so much and being considerate of others.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be realistic with yourself, because even when it's like, when it comes to like skill level or just knowing how much you can do, like how fast you work, those kind of things, it's not to put yourself down if you're like, I know I'm not like at a professional level yet. It's to be realistic and know like, okay, I'm here, so what do I have to do to get here? It's more of because I feel like in junior year I really realized, because that's when I did my first like animated short project. There was a class where we, with Weber, we made the opening short for the senior showcase for that year. And I really, in that environment, I really know the only person you're really competing against is yourself, because you're never going to be this other person that already exists. Like, they've already been themselves, and you can't be a carbon copy of them. You have to work on, okay, I'm here. If I can make my next thing just a little bit better, then you're slowly building yourself up. So it's important to look at your peers and professionals' work to know like where the bar is at, what everyone's doing, especially because it's just like, as an artist, you're building your visual library, you're seeing what everyone's doing, you want to admire, take inspiration, and like notice your peers' achievements, but also just not compare yourself to them, because you can only be the best version of yourself, and you don't want to be a second-rate version of somebody else. Because everyone's unique. No one's going to be able to replicate what you do exactly. So as long as you're trying to just make yourself a little bit better each time, or even if you get knocked down a few pegs, you're like, okay, this is what I did wrong this time. I'm going to not do that again. So that next time I can maybe push myself back up to where I thought my work quality was, or a little bit higher. So then you just slowly take those baby steps. Yeah. And eventually you'll look around and you'll be like, oh, maybe I've reached like a professional quality. And then you'll start to like see that like I got like that first like affirmation with like my first gig, like working with that team, knowing I could meet their deadlines and perform at the level that I needed to perform and still enjoy it and be proud of that work. I was like, okay, yeah, I've gotten here now. But yeah, that's like, because even in school, they do encourage you to compete with each other. And I think that's stupid, because you're coworkers. You're going to be working with each other. So try and develop
especially
your
like
best
in
skills.
animation.
Yeah, it's all team-based work. I feel like, especially it's like, even if someone else is like doing the exact same thing you do, it doesn't matter if they're better than you, because there's always going to be someone better. There's always going to be someone who either does something faster than you, better quality. Maybe they're just more personable, but that doesn't mean that you need to like compete with them in every single respect. Because you'll probably work with them, and you want to learn from these other people. Because one of the things, especially when I was starting to learn character animation, I noticed like in our review sessions, a lot of people would kind of check out, because it is like 2.5 hours of just looking at everyone doing a head turn. But if you can see other people's mistakes and learn from those as well, then you're saving yourself a lot of time, because then you don't have to make those fumbles. Yeah. And you can try and like avoid them, or try and devise like methods to build up. Or if you see something really great, you can be like, oh, I'm going to take that and put it into my work, but then add to it. Yeah. So it's just like constantly elevating yourself.
It's so nice like reflecting on this, especially like now it's like officially like been a year since we've all graduated, and like now that we've been out of school for like a year, we have, and like for you, Gret, we've also like been freelancing for a while. You can kind of like see now like what your school lessons have like taught you, and how you've been reacting to those projects, and then seeing how you would then react in like an actual like professional setting where you're getting paid, and like seeing how you adapt to like those real life situations. So it's just nice, like with the three of us just hearing how school has been, and what we actually learned from being in school projects. It like, I don't know, for me it's like whenever we talk about school, it's always like, oh, I learned like this technical skill, but like subconsciously you're like, you know what, I actually like taught myself how to like manage how much workload I get, how manage how well I deal with other people. So it's like, you know, those skills that you don't realize that are so important, but they're the ones that like make you stand out when you're working professionally. So yeah.
Not even just like skill level. I think it's because they also try and compare you to like work ethic, quote unquote. And like, so how fast are people learning? How long do they work in a day? Like they try and trick you into taking pride into sleep deprivation, which it was a folly I fell into. Like my junior year, I was getting maybe max 4 hours of sleep a night. It was not good. I never did it ever again because my speech patterns were being affected. I was forgetting things all the time. I couldn't string together sentences half the time. And so I also think, like, so if someone's improving faster than you, or if they just seem to work faster than you, you shouldn't take that as a slight against yourself. People work on their own pace. People improve in their own time. And I think it's really important that, because, like, do your best has been conflated to do exactly what's the ideal, when it's more of, like, do what you can with what you have. If that's, like, a 70% effort, that's great. That's what you can give right now. And you need to be lenient with yourself in what you can give. Because I don't think even, like, loving art and loving animation, it's not worth killing yourself over. You have the rest of your life to get into this industry, to refine your skills. And art does take a lifetime to master. So it's not a race, it's a marathon. So you need to pace yourself with what you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Like, so that's like me with the 3 studios. Like, I worked so much. But when people asked, should I take 3 studios? I said, no. I'm doing this because I can now manage this. But if you want extra social time, if that's really important for you, then you shouldn't be taking workloads on that take away from that. Because it's college.
Yep. Know what works
Be
for
happy,
you.
have fun, grow as a person.
Knowing yourself. Yeah. Damn.
I feel like that's a good kind of segue into talking about your more professional work, like, and talking about how your skills, like, went from school into working a lot of freelance. Do you want to talk about, like, your first gig being at Monochrome RPG and the project you worked on?
Yeah, so with Monochrome, that started back while I was in college, because it started out, like, I was on the initial team when there was just, like, 6 of us. They had a concept, they were looking for animators, there were flyers around, and I was like, this would be a good thing to help me add to my reel. Because I kind of think, like, with a year in advance kind of in mind, I'm like, okay, I know I need to be adding things to my reel. They wanted to do, like, more 1920 style animation, and I was like, oh, that's funky, that's cool. It'll be something to show a diversity of skill set to work with, because especially for 2D animation, you need to show that you can draw anything. Like, you can fit their style, you can do what they need, even different styles of animation of how fast things are moving, if you're doing more limited animation versus fully flowing animation. But yeah, we started with, like, 6 people. It started off just, like, for, like, as a passion project. No one was really getting paid. And then over the years, as things built up, things started to get paid, started to get paychecks for that. And then they did a Kickstarter, which I did storyboards for their, like, Kickstarter trailer. And then more people started getting on the team, and it turned into more of, like, a studio-like situation, which was really cool.
Wow.
And then, yeah, funnily enough, my job that I got for Ingenuity, which I applied for on the Monday, got an email on the Tuesday, and was hired on the Wednesday for, they told me that they wanted to interview me, not because of, they're like, oh yeah, your 2D reel was really good. But then we clicked on your game animation, and we saw the overlap, and those animations were like, okay, you are capable. So then they wanted to interview me for the position. Yeah. And then that was really cool. And I say jokingly they ruined me for this, because, you know, if you start on a really high note, you're like, oh no, am I going to be let down later? Because everyone on that team was amazing. Vinod, who was the animation supervisor, amazing, great to work with. I loved all my colleagues. We still talk on a Discord with each other, put job postings, just catch up with each other.
Oh, it's so cute.
It was honestly really great, and I had a lot of fun working on it, because it was a music video for Kelly Clarkson's, like, Christmas song, and I had never really done, like, music style things. Like, I've done, like, you know, like, in, like, at SCAD you do like, oh, like the animated Hamilton like storyboard thing, but this was more like animating on the beat or within the rhythm of a song. And I listened to that song for the entire project. Just to, I listen to music to get myself in a vibe, right? So like if I'm working on something like a bit more dramatic, I'll have dramatic piano music playing. Like I just try and get myself in the headspace for it. So that was fun. And then on that project, I went in and I told them point blank, I was like, I have done one dog walk cycle and it was bad because there were animals in this music video. And so I was like, just a heads up, if you're looking for a animal animator on top of character animator, I might not be your person.
I love how honest you were.
But I think, well, it's like, then he messaged me and he was like, do you think you'd want to try one of the cat shots? And I think it's important to be like open to things. Because it's like being hesitant, it's like, okay, I will try this one cat shot, not commit to anything further, but just try it out. Like, I'm an animator, I study movement. These are 2 more legs than I'm used to, but I can get up reference, which is very important. I can get up reference, and I can integrate my other, like, acting skills for the performance of the cat, and really try it. And then I ended up animating almost all of the cat and dog shots in that video.
Let's go.
I also did a lot of people animation in that video too, but it was really nice because then it's like, oh, getting a new skill set on the job. And it was also like I'd used mostly TV Paint in college, and then all of a sudden I was on a professional production with Toon Boom, which I had limited experience in, but since there was no like rigging in my part involved, I was like, okay, it's just drawing, I can figure it out. And so some of the functions I was learning a bit of Toon Boom on the job, and then I was learning how to animate quadrupeds on the job. And I came out of this with a bunch of really good real work, with like a great experience, being like, yeah, this is really cool. And then right after that, when it was posted, the director of my second gig reached out to me via email and told me he was working on a musical short called Batu. It's really weird because most of my gigs end up being like a music video or like a musical. And I was like, I have notes coming out of college, never worked on anything like this. But yeah, so he reached out and he was like, yeah, I really like your like tender moments in your reel. And I wanted you to animate these 2 scenes. And so I was like, okay. And then we got on call, like discussed everything. And then I ended up signing on to that. And that was really fun. Because then I'd gone from, like, big gestures and a lot of running and, like, more comical kind of animation, just in the sense it's more whimsical, it's fun, it's more pantomime, into this dialogue-heavy, intimate moment in this film. And so it was really interesting to see myself trying, like, just flip gears. Because as, like, a character animator, like, the performance is everything. And so you're trying to, like, flip between these things. And I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. And then the Ingenuity gig was like in a very intense 5 weeks. And then this new one was like a more lenient over the span of a couple months. Being like, he knew that I was working other gigs during as well. And he's like, yeah, just like as long as you're working on things, showing progress, we just really slowly hashed out. And I did about like 90 to 100 seconds of animation for that, I think. And I have to do, all these gigs are from like, most of them are from the rough thumbnails to the full cleanup in color with some lighting sometimes. So working on that. And that was really fun. And I also got to work with another SCAD alum who I'd taken character animation with in my junior year. Shout out to Lauren. we ended up working on a shot together. So I did one character and then she did the other. And we were just, I was like, we looked at each other and we're like, do I know you? We're like, yes, I recognize you. Because I recognized her animation. She did like an animation of a robot with like lip sync stuff.
Oh my God.
And that never left my mind. And so I saw her face and I didn't know her name, but I knew her animation. And I was like, I've met this person before.
Oh my God. That shows you're so like,
and then
really pay attention.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know. I have really good long-term memory and poor short-term memory, which is kind of the opposite of what normally happens. I'm really bad with names, but I will never forget a face and I will never forget their work. But yeah, and then after, I just wrapped up doing like the final touches on all my work for Batu like this past week, so it's been going on for a while. But then during those as well, I've had another gig at Tonic DNA, which is a Canadian studio who is doing work for the Apple Plus series Central Park, which I think season 2 is coming out this month. I got to work on some musical sequences. I did some rough animation stuff, but I did majority tight animation and some cleanup work. It was really cool. I know, like, coming out of school, I think it's like we all really want to work on big projects. Like, we want to just jump past the first, like, 20 years of working in this industry and just get straight to exactly where we want to be. But I think I really enjoyed working with Tonic because there's so many talented people there. And so I got to, even though I was doing, like, the tight animation, I got to see their animation. I got to see how they set up their keys, how they were attacking their performance. And then I got to internalize that and then apply that going forward for anything else that I had to do. So it was really, I'm finding more and more that I constantly try and find ways to turn jobs into, like, learning experiences, or finding what I can take away to improve and add to my next gig. So I really enjoyed working for them, and I worked for them for about 2.5 months. And I got that job off of Twitter. Shout out to Zeddy on Twitter, who tweeted. I didn't follow. It showed up on my feed because someone I follow liked that tweet, and it showed up on my feed. And it was like, DM me your portfolio, because the studio I'm working for is looking for more freelance 2D character animators. So I sent DM, and then I'd forgotten about it. And then like 2 weeks later, I think I got an email. And then it just snowballed from there, and I ended up working for them for like 2.5 months, which is really fun. And then the gig I'm on right now, I got because a character designer that I follow on Twitter posted that one of their clients needed a 2D character animator, and they had more of an anime style to it, which my demo reel didn't really have that. Like, I had like maybe one shot that was more in that vein. But I had just done, like in November, I had done a storyboarding sequence that was more heavily animated with my friend's character designs, which were more in that vein of style. So I'd sent my reel, and then I attached that storyboard sequence saying, like, oh, I know there's not that much like of that exact style in my demo reel, but here's a storyboard sequence to show I can draw this sequentially. Like, I can tackle this style a bit more. Just I haven't done a an animation test or an art test for any of the jobs I've gotten. But yeah, so I sent that, and then
that's awesome.
They were interested. So I ended up getting a job on that, and I'm wrapping that up in like the next 2 weeks. We're in our final stretch for that. But yeah, it's really interesting because I've gone from like big teams. So like the Ingenuity one was a relatively smaller team of like 6 or 7 of us working together. Batu was really just me working with the director and Lauren, the other animator, for that shot to really get those things down. Tonic was a lot of getting to see and kind of, I didn't get that much opportunity to speak with the other animators on that team, but I got to see their work with this animation supervisor to really get that down. And then with this current gig, I'm the only animator. So they're really putting a lot of trust in me and what I know and what I've developed from all these previous gigs to understand, okay, well, here's the process we're gonna do, like the pipeline of how I'm gonna deal with this animation so that you can approve of it, but then we don't get stuck in a cycle of like constantly trying to like change things. And I kind of have like a lot of responsibility when it comes to internalizing what I'm being told by the director in charge of the whole ad spot, and then trying to appease that vision, but then trying to elevate with what I know from my experience with an animation pipeline and like TV animation and that sort of like commercial and TV to get a good result, but also to try and push it. Because it's like, it's a short timeline, but I'm like, some of these shots we could make really special. And some of these we can be more lenient with because they're quite short and just like get them done for where they need to be. So yeah, it's really interesting. I'm having a lot of fun. I constantly tell my friend who lives from high school, who is my only other friend in Texas, that I'm going to take a break, and then I never do. I'll be like, hey, I'm going to take a break soon. And then 2 days later, I'll be like, I signed another contract. Man, I'm having a really good time. I'm learning a lot. I feel like everything I learn now is going to be very beneficial to me later. Like, I try and make sure it's like, because it's like, it'd be great to have like a glamorous like gig, like with the game stuff. I currently, that position from being one of the original 6 people working on that to now I lead a team of like 8 other animators, do stuff like that, which is like, it's great. It's a lot of responsibility, but it's also really nice to just be like a tight animator and get to learn from people who are way better than me, who have been working for way longer than me, and just being able to learn on the job.
I love that.
I really love this growth mindset you have. It's like you're just trying to like absorb as much and learn as much. Like that's so important and such an asset to have. So
I feel like it also it's like, because it's not to say that like sometimes work doesn't feel tedious. Like I feel like with any job, no matter how much you love it, when you do it so often and for so long, it starts to, sometimes it gets a bit tedious. And I like to listen to music like when I'm doing cleanup, because I'm like no thoughts in head empty, just doing pretty line. But it can get like a little bit like repetitive sometimes. That's also what I like about gig work. It's never long enough for you to get bored. But even if you're like, oh, I really want to be a rough animator, but it's like even in tight animation, you're gonna find these things that can really help you and enhance your career, just from like, oh, I get to work with the studio, it's amazing. I get to be associated with an amazing title, and I get to learn these things. And it's like, I feel like a lot of times, especially, it's like art is so intrinsically like related to the self in the way that's involved. Like a lot of people put a lot of their self in their art. But I try and lead my career with the ego at the door. Like I don't think, like, know your worth, know that you're good. You've been hired, you're good. But you're there to learn, and you're there to be a part of a team. You're there to be a part of a unit. You're filling a position, and it's the greater good, and it's not about you anymore. Like personal work, that can be all about you.
That's maturity.
I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing that shit. But it's like, yeah, I really enjoy team stuff, because it's like when you see the final product, you're like, wow, I got to help with that. That's really cool.
Yeah. And like some of Gret's work is actually already out there, like with the music video for Kelly Clarkson, Under the Mistletoe, right? You should go check it out. We'll probably link it on social media for everyone to watch. Ooh. It's so cute.
It recently hit like 1 million like views, and my parents ran into my room and they were so excited. My parents, they're like, oh cute. My god. They're like, oh my god. And I'm like, thank you for hyping me up.
You're like,
so cute.
Oh my god. Be like, all the cats, I did that.
Yeah. My dad, he's like, can I show people at work? And I was like, of course you can.
Yes, you can. That's so cute.
I guess moving on from this wonderful high of listening to all the words of wisdom that Gret has had to us, and to why kind of Gret is on this podcast, because we don't want to just advertise the animation skills, but the storyboarding skills as well, which I know you're really interested in. So how's the job hunt going in that aspect?
It's rough. I won't sugarcoat it. It's rough. Yeah, it's a highly competitive portion of the pipeline right now. Like, cause I mean, it's like stories. It's just so fun to work in. I love scene composition. I'm obsessed with framing and subtextual language, and like what the camera angle means, what it insinuates, character placement, how like that language can translate and elevate the original like script and the performance for the story. And I just really love that stuff so much. And I feel like that's why they tell you, like with entertainment stuff, like you really have to be passionate about the things that you're trying to get a job for. Because even doing this animation work, I'm still working on storyboard stuff. Like, I just really enjoy doing it. And so I would love to get a job, but I'm still gonna do it whether or not I do. Yeah, I really enjoy it. Rejections coming left and right. We just gotta look at it, acknowledge it, and keep soldiering on. I feel like a big part of these things is not only having the skill set, but what show they're doing, what film or show they're working on. Do you fit it? Because a lot of times it's like, they're like, oh, you could be really good and have a lot of potential, but they're like, do we have the resources and time to shift you onto the train track we're on right now? Or would it be better for the show if we got someone who was already on that track? So especially like, it's like it's my last opportunity to get like these trainee positions, these like apprenticeship positions with like the bigger studios, even some smaller ones.
Yeah.
And I've gotten some rejections from them. Some we're still waiting to hear back on. And it's like, I've gotten far enough in some of the applications to know that it's not a lack of understanding of screen design. It's not a lack of skill. It's just there's so many talented people. There's just so many people who are really good at this.
Yeah.
And there are few positions to fill it. So I think it's really important to remember that a no is not a never. It's just a not right now. So you could be working for a studio way down the line. Like my dream is to be able to work with Leica on something. I've gotten very close with their internship applications, but it's just not happened. And I was really sad, but it's okay because I'm like 23. I've got my whole career ahead of me, and I have plenty of time to learn and grow and potentially be able to collaborate with them on a project. So, and I just think it's like, I just enjoy storytelling a lot. It's the whole reason I went to art school. I was a huge English nerd in high school. It was like my favorite subject. I love analyzing things, and I love I like what makes a story and how it like arrives to the final product. And I think that's why I gravitated towards like animation and storyboarding so much, because it's an element of conveying the intention of the story. So it's like you can have the script or like the outline, and you're like, okay, I know what this story is trying to say. How do we actually say it? And how can we say it in a way that's effective? And so I really like dissecting those things. And that happens with like character performance as well. You're like, what is the character's mindset? What happened before this? What's happening after this? What do they know? What do they don't? How is that impacting their performance and how they're going to say things, how they're going to move their body? What idiosyncrasies are unique to that individual that we've built up? What kind of themes are we working with?
Yeah.
And that's just what I really like about stories. So it would be great. I would be over the moon to get one of these like positions. But at the same time, I know if I don't, it's not the end.
Oh.
Like, I'm just always gonna be there in the background. Just like, I'm waiting for that spot for me to step into. I'll just be there. You'll see my face everywhere.
Yes.
I just think it's important to remember, because there's kind of like this struggle of trying to be exactly what shows want, or like just follow your new unique voice, the way you want to present stories and the kind of stories you want to tell. And I think it's really important to just stay true to your stories and the way you want to tell them, because when the right project comes, it comes.
Oh.
And it's
so nice.
Because it's like it's not any negative thing of like people who want to abide by or try like to fit themselves into these different ways of telling stories because they like doing all those different things. But I think if you struggle between, well, I know exactly what studios want, but I just really don't know if I can provide that, it's okay to follow your unique voice, especially with social media stuff. Like, you can do mini comics. There's many ways to tell stories, and I don't think you should have to conform yourself to what you think you have to be in order to get into the industry. Because if you look at films, they're always changing. The kind of narratives that are being told, it's always evolving. Like, before Spider-Verse came out, no one thought that kind of film would ever come out. So you just gotta, especially if you develop your unique skills. Hopefully that project comes. Hopefully other projects that you can also hop on would come. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm really grateful that I have this animation work as well to keep me going, keep the income coming in. With storyboarding, I'll always be doing that.
I don't know. I definitely feel like you're there. Like, looking at your portfolio, looking at your stuff, like, please check out Greta's site after this podcast, because there's so many good, like, I just love how you have like so much of your process out there for everyone to see, like the thumbnails, you have your script out, like your foundation skills are there, like you have really good shot comps and like composite and like your understanding of the human figure. So it's just like the right person seeing your portfolio at the right time, like hopefully that person's listening to this podcast and can really offer you that full-time storyboarding job and can get you in, because that would be amazing.
Yeah, and again, apply to everything and anything. Just keep showing your stuff to people, and if they're like, wow, people want this, like, the worst thing they can say is no, and no is not the end of the world. So I hear no every day now, so I'm like, okay.
Yep. The mood.
Yeah. It'd be a time.
Yeah. I like sharing my process just because I think for industry professionals and amateurs alike, whether you're in high school and you're thinking about going to college for art, or you're already in college for art, or you're trying to develop yourself on your own without schooling, it's really nice to see how different people approach things. Because there could be a method that just no one really tells you about, that you end up finding that just really works for you and for your rhythm. For like, I started using 3D models for my layouts, for more complex layouts, because I don't want to think about perspective half the time. Like, I'm like, okay, I can put this in perspective if I really wanted to, but I could either model the entire set in 3 hours or spend 20 hours drawing 3 different layouts with good perspective.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really experimenting to find efficiency, but I also think it's like, okay, well, I know like Castlevania uses a lot of 3D models for their, like they work in Blender sometimes for like, because they do so much like crazy camera movement for their fight sequences and stuff. So even just trying to find different ways to better efficiency within your own process could also be one of the things that gets a studio's interest in you.
Yeah.
So
I love that mindset.
Also, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you need to know how to draw, but it's not, if you don't have to waste your time drawing everything perfectly.
Yep.
That's I'm like, layouts, I could do it if I really wanted to. But do I have the time? Yeah, references are king for everything. Push your poses if you are interested in animation. Even if you're interested in like CG stuff, like just making stuff look visually better never hurt anyone. Just like silhouettes and stuff.
Yeah. That's what we're here for. I guess since we don't have like a lot of time left, this is a question that I always ask, but did you do anything special to celebrate that you got like your first gig of like freelance, or like your first freelance gig or industry gig once you got it? Because I'm always curious if there's anything that happened.
I went for a run. I got the email for the interview of my first gig, and I got so keyed up that I just went for a run to clear my head and like to get all this excess nervous energy out. Because like in school, even like high school into college, I had a lot of really bad social anxiety and stuff like that. And throughout college, I found my footing, and like now I feel a lot more confident like speaking to people, especially people like strangers. Like with gig work, you're constantly interviewing with people you've never spoken to before, and you're trying to put your best foot forward and really sell yourself essentially. But I found like even like my first gig, I got so anxious that I was like waking up at like 5:30 in the morning. I was going for runs all the time because I just need to get that excess energy out, and it like never really goes away when you start a new gig, because you're like, oh, I want to do well. And then once you get more comfortable, it keeps going. Yeah, so I went for a run. I don't know if I did anything special to celebrate. I might have bought myself a hoodie. I collect hoodies. Or some books. I don't know. All my money, like my spare change, goes to hoodies and to books. That's what I like to.
Nice.
There you go.
I feel like when I got the gig, my mind was very much just, I want to do well, and I'm going to focus on this right now, because I want this experience to be pleasant.
Yeah.
And I know, since networking is so important, I not only do I want to create a good working environment and be nice to work with, but I know it is important going forward, especially with gig work, with like recommendations and stuff like that. I was like, I just want to do the best that I can. And really just focus on that. Yeah. Maybe my celebration was paying that immensely huge bill for a year of Toon Boom. Maybe that was.
There you go.
That's the only purchase I can remember from that time.
It's an investment.
It is an investment, and I've made back the money, thankfully. But it was a splurge. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, okay. Any 2D animators out there who have paid for a Toon Boom license, but don't want to also have to pay for the Storyboard Pro license. My latest storyboard sequence I did completely in Toon Boom Harmony.
My goodness.
Because I know, especially in TV animation, it's important to know how to use Storyboard Pro, which I do know how to use. Most of my other projects are in that. But I'm like, okay, the vector style, the clean lines, that's important to get in my portfolio. But I was like, I don't have access to Storyboard Pro anymore because my school that I graduated from won't let me have it anymore. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I made different scene files. Like, okay, here's this shot with these poses.
Oh my
in
goodness,
it.
that's crazy.
I just did it in Harmony. Work with what you have. The program will not deter won't retract from the quality of your work, but also being conscious of knowing like, okay, TV animation, they work in Storyboard Pro. The vectorized programs, you know that they're more clean boards, so if you're aiming for that, you want to appeal to that. And then if it's like film, you can be more loosey-goosey, use whatever program. They use a lot of Photoshop, they use Procreate, whatever. But, even if you're just in like
I think that's a good time to do our final panel, our final corner, where we do a speed interview. The interview's not over. We have 2 more minutes. But basically, we ask you a bunch of questions. We have 30 questions. People usually don't make it to 30. It's very hard because we only do 2 minutes. But yeah, are you ready to do the speed interview?
Okay, let's speed run.
We're going to speed run it.
Ready.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, start. Digital or traditional?
Both.
Oh, biggest artistic influence.
Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, nice.
Thumbnails,
roughs, or cleanup?
Rough.
Nice.
Proudest achievement. Sorry, I spaced out.
Graduating college.
Lit. Horses versus cars.
Cars. I'm scared of horses. I don't like them. I don't trust them.
If your art was music, what would it sound like?
Lo-fi meets like heavy metal.
Nice.
Oh.
Draw with music or show playing?
What?
Draw with the music in the background or a show playing, like a TV show?
Oh, music. I be vibing. I need to get I'm like in a music video when I'm working. I'm like, oh.
Favorite art tip?
Learn anatomy before you break it.
Lit. Lit. Favorite Storyboard Pro feature or Toon Boom?
Toon Boom feature.
Duplicate scene. Duplicate panel.
Favorite feature about your own art?
Versatility.
Yes.
I never stay in one style for too long.
Lit. Favorite thing to board?
Drama and horror.
Oh, horror.
Ooh. Comedy, action, or romance?
Comedy. I love Edgar Wright.
Nice.
Ooh, nice.
What do you do when you're art blocked?
I take a break. I just go drink a coffee, lie down, watch some TikToks.
Oh God, that's so loud.
Yeah. We did.
I would recommend though. Okay, I'm gonna say something. Just Edgar Wright. His films are really cool because he creates a lot of comedy through his screen direction. And I think that's like, especially if you want to go into like comedy as a storyboard artist, I think his films are really important to like look at, like Scott Pilgrim, Shaun of the Dead, At World's End, Hot Fuzz.
Yes.
I love his directing style is just so on point. It's so on point.
Yeah. I feel like his screen design elevates comedy rather than just showing it.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Yes.
really dope.
Yes.
But yeah, this was so much fun to do, Gret. Thank you for bearing with us for like so long because we messed up. It was wonderful to hear it twice.
It was amazing. Thank you for being on.
I would say I'd do it again, but we already did.
Anyway, because people are obviously wanting to contact you after hearing this one, all your insights, all your knowledge, where can people find you to hire you?
If you want to contact me directly, you can just shoot me an email at contact.grhand@gmail.com. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram at greta.hand or on Twitter at greta's hand. My name with the little S and then hand. So I just vibe there.
And your website?
on my website, GretaHand.com. I thought I'd make it pretty easy.
There you go. And we'll link all these stuff on Twitter. And we can't really do it as much on Instagram, but definitely check out the Twitter.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, if you would like to follow our podcast on socials, we are on at HeyHiRusPod at everything. Yeah, basically. And we're also on Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/HeyHiRusPod.
Yeah. Thank you again for coming on this podcast, Greta.
Thank you. Everyone follow all their socials.
No.
Thank you for having me on. I've had a good time. But everyone should follow all of the Hey Hi socials. You should follow Abby. You should follow Ariel. Both immensely talented. If you need a resource, Abby's probably made a thread about it. She's your go-to.
Oh, thank you again.
I was gonna say I enjoy this podcast so much because there are a lot of like professionals who've been in for a long time, but it's always nice to hear about people trying to break in and like knowing that you're not alone in this endless job hunt.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.